dive deep into the enigmatic origins of the Nephilim. Our full movie explores the mysterious Nephilim, powerful figures known in biblical stories. These Nephilim were a unique creation, offspring of fallen angels and human women. Discover the truth about these biblical giants, also known as the Nephilim, who roamed the world before the deluge. The world before the deluge was a different place, heavily influenced by these biblical giants and the fallen angels. We explore the biblical stories of these incredible beings. The actions of the Nephilim and the fallen angels profoundly shaped the world before the deluge, leading to the Great Deluge. This catastrophic deluge wiped out almost all life, but the biblical stories of the Nephilim and the fallen angels survived. We delve into these fascinating biblical stories about the biblical giants and how their presence in the world before the deluge necessitated the deluge. The deluge was a turning point for the world before the deluge. Uncover the legends of these mighty Nephilim, the true biblical giants from the world before the deluge. These biblical stories tell us about the fallen angels who brought them into existence. The profound impact of the Nephilim and the subsequent deluge are crucial to understanding ancient biblical stories. Learn why the world before the deluge was so corrupt, largely due to the biblical giants and the influence of the fallen angels. The Nephilim were central to these biblical stories. Join us as we explore the captivating biblical stories surrounding the Nephilim, the formidable biblical giants whose existence marked the world before the deluge. From the fallen angels to the cataclysmic deluge, every detail of these biblical stories is explored. Understand the era of the Nephilim and the biblical giants, and how the deluge changed everything for the world before the deluge. These fallen angels and biblical giants are part of incredible biblical stories. Rotero. Prepare to dive into a narrative as ancient as humanity itself, yet with lessons that resonate to this very day. Have you ever wondered at the most incredible legends about beings of immense size and power who walked among men in forgotten times are more than mere tales? What if the origin of these beings was linked to a choice that changed the entire course of history, a forbidden union between what was a higher sphere and what was earthly? Embrace the journey to unravel a saga etched in the hearts of the oldest records, a story that speaks of temptation, fall, widespread corruption, and a judgment that redefined the world as we know it. It's a narrative that begins with the dawn of humanity and culminates in a colossal catastrophe that cleansed the earth, paving the way for a new and dramatic beginning. This is the story of the Nephilim, the giants of antiquity. Who were they after all? They were the result of a union that should never have happened. Children born of a shocking mixture between beings of celestial origin, the so-called sons of God, and the women of the earth, the daughters of men. They were not ordinary people. They were colossi, beings of imposing stature, with strength and energy that far surpassed human capability. Their presence commanded respect and, above all, profound terror. And what did they do here on earth? They dominated without mercy or pity. They spread terror and oppression. They transformed the pursuit of fame and brute force into a kind of personal religion, and violence was their primary form of expression. Wherever they went, they left a trail of corruption, despair, and a cruelty that seemed endless. Their influence was so vast and destructive that it shaped an entire era, leading humanity into an unprecedented abyss, a world before the deluge dominated by them. To truly understand how these beings appeared and why their existence was so devastating for the world before the deluge, we need to go back in time, to the moment humanity began to forge its own path, far from the paradisiacal gardens. It all began with the echo of a stifled cry, the first act of violence between brothers. Abel, a man of pure and faithful heart, was brutally murdered by his own brother, Cain. Abel's blood was not just spilled on the ground. It is said that it cried out from the earth, a silent voice of injustice that reached the heavens. Cain, the first murderer, received a mark and was banished, forced to live as a fugitive, a wanderer. He settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden, carrying with him not only his guilt, but also the seed of a new way of life, a life of self-sufficiency and defiance of divine order. In that land of exile, Cain, driven by a mixture of pride and despair, began to build something that would make him feel secure and important, a city. He named it Enoch, after his son, as a monument to his own ability to create and control without the need for divine favor. This city was not just a cluster of buildings. It became the birthplace of a culture that, though ingenious, was deeply alienated from the original purpose of creation. Human intelligence and creativity, precious gifts, were directed towards the exaltation of the ego, fleeting pleasure, and the accumulation of power. Cain's descendants flourished in number but declined in morality. Generation after generation, this lineage delved deeper into an abyss of egocentrism. We arrive at Lamech, a figure who embodied arrogance and brutality. He boasted of having 2 wives, Ada and Zillah, an explicit challenge to the monogamy established by God since Eden. Lamech was a warrior and a tyrant, bragging about his strength and having killed a man for a mere wound, promising a 77-fold revenge greater than what Cain had received. Individual justice was replaced by the law of the strongest, where retaliation was unlimited, and human life held little value. From this same lineage, however, also emerged the pioneers of many arts and crafts we know today. Jabal was the first to organize nomadic life, building tents and caring for large flocks. Jubal, his brother, brought music to life, creating instruments like the harp and flute, filling the air with melodies, which unfortunately were often used to accompany the feasts and frivolity of the era. And Tubal-Cain, a master blacksmith, worked with bronze and iron, creating essential tools, but also increasingly sophisticated weapons of war and luxurious ornaments. His sister, Naamah, is mentioned in the scriptures. Perhaps she represented the beauty and sensuality that became so highly valued in that materialistic society of the world before the deluge. All of this, life in the cities, captivating music, skill with metals, were manifestations of human genius. But, tragically, they were all diverted from their original purpose. Instead of glorifying Creator or enriching life virtuously, these innovations were used to fuel vanity, ostentation, and increasingly violence. The culture flourishing among Cain's descendants was one of self-worship. Cities pulsed with lavish feasts, banquets lasting days, boundless sensuality, and power alliances aimed solely at control and domination. It was a world before the deluge of dangerous pleasures, where the pursuit of immediacy and personal gratification suffocated any remnant of morality or spiritual connection. In stark contrast to this downward spiral, there was another branch of humanity. After the loss of Abel, God blessed Adam and Eve with another son, Seth, a name meaning replacement, a new hope for humanity. And from Seth's lineage came Enosh. It was during this time, when Enosh was born and time deepened, that a significant act began. The scriptures reveal to us that men began to call on the name of the Lord. Thus, humanity was treading 2 roads in a world before the deluge, one that incessantly drifted away from divine light, sinking into earthly glory and hedonistic pursuit, and another that, even amidst temptations, sought, however imperfectly, to maintain a thread of connection with its Creator. And it was at this turning point, in this world before the deluge divided by such opposing values, the unrestrained pursuit of human power on one side and the quest for divine communion on the other, that a shocking and unprecedented event unfolded. The sons of God, beings of higher order, perhaps celestial messengers who abandoned their post, or the godly lineage of Seth who failed in their mission, looked upon the daughters of men. These women, perhaps in the alluring and materialistic lineage of Cain, were simply ordinary women who, with their beauty and sensuality, exerted a magnetic and irresistible power. And the sons of God succumbed to this earthly allure. They disregarded sacred boundaries, the natural barriers separating their spheres of existence, and took for themselves as many of these women as they desired, without any divine respect or discernment. From this improper and profane union, the mighty Nephilim were born. They were not just tall men. They were the direct result of a transgression. They were the offspring of an unnatural union, an aberration in creation. Their strength was immense. Their height defied trees, and their dominion over the rest of humanity was almost absolute. They quickly became the mighty men, the men of renown of primordial eras. Their reputation echoed across the land, but it was not a fame based on virtue or wisdom, but rather on brute force, relentless cruelty, and ungodliness that solidified into a true cult. The pride of these colossi dominated the cities Cain had planted, and his descendants had expanded into earthly empires. The earth was saturated with violence because of their presence and actions. Every thought and every desire in the human heart were continually evil without cease. Corruption not only existed, it overflowed, inundating every aspect of life and society in the world before the deluge. If you're finding this deep dive into ancient mysteries captivating, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more untold stories. Amidst this dense and oppressive darkness in the world before the deluge, a single flame still flickered. One man, Noah, found a special place in God's heart. While the entire world before the deluge around him sank into unimaginable depravity, into seemingly endless violence, into the worship of the power from Nephilim and the incessant pursuit of every pleasure, Noah chose a different path. He walked in communion with God. He was a righteous man, blameless in his generation, and his life was a testament to obedience to every divine word and instruction. God, with his omniscient gaze, contemplated the earth he had created with such love. He saw that humanity's wickedness had become colossal, and that every thought, every intention of men's hearts was turned only to evil without ceasing. The Creator's pain was immense, a profound sadness at seeing his creation so distorted. The existence of the Nephilim, this anomaly and abomination, combined with the widespread corruption of all human beings, had disfigured the earth to the point where it no longer reflected God's original purpose. The only way to purify the world and preserve any hope of redemption was a radical new beginning. God then spoke to Noah, revealing his plan, both terrible and necessary: a great deluge, a torrent of waters that would cover every inch of the earth, annihilating every living thing that breathed. But with Noah, God would make a covenant, a pact of salvation. Noah was to build an ark, a vessel of gigantic proportions, made of gopher wood, divided into compartments and sealed inside and out with pitch. It was a task that seemed absurd, a colossal construction, openly mocked by everyone who observed in the world before the deluge. Imagine this scene in vivid detail. Noah, already an elderly man, with his family, his wife, his sons Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives, working tirelessly for decades on construction of this immense wooden structure. The Nephilim, in their arrogance and imposing stature, and the men and women of that time, lost in their lavish feasts, their sensual parties that lasted nights, their excessive pride, and their lives steeped in lust and violence. They laughed at Noah. A boat in the middle of the desert? A global flood? That's madness. Impossible. The scorn and laughter were the constant soundtrack to every hammer blow echoing from the ark's construction site. Noah's preaching about the coming judgment, about the need for repentance and the arrival of divine cleansing, fell on deaf ears, ignored by minds intoxicated by sin, self-sufficiency, and the illusion of control in the world before the deluge. If this historical drama resonates with you, give this video a like to show your appreciation for uncovering these ancient truths. Years dragged on, perhaps more than 100. The ark, colossal and strange, rose above the landscape, a solitary monument to faith amidst widespread disbelief. And then, the crucial moment arrived. God commanded Noah and his family to enter the ark. And, in a manner that defied all logic and science of the time, the animals of each species, a pair or 7 pairs, depending on their nature, marched disciplined and without resistance into that gigantic structure. The sight must have been astonishing, a spectacle that should have awakened fear in any heart. But still, the hardened hearts of the world before the deluge refused to believe. They continued their revelries, their lives of ostentation and violence, ignoring the evident signs. The ark's door closed. It was not Noah's hand that closed it. It was God himself who sealed the entrance, ensuring the safety of those within and sealing the fate of those left outside. And then the sky opened. It was not just torrential rains. The floodgates of the heavens broke open. The firmament tore apart. The fountains of the great deep, the underground water reserves, burst forth with unimaginable force. A never-before-witnessed flood began, an overwhelming force that could not be contained. The scorn and laughter turned into desperate cries, the laughter into a chorus of horror and panic. The proud cities, the opulent palaces of Nephilim, the parties that once echoed with music and sensuality, the metallurgy and all the works of human hands, everything was mercilessly swallowed by the raging waters of the deluge. The earth was purified. The Nephilim, the giants of antiquity, fell, their immense bodies submerged in the tumultuous waters that covered even the highest mountains. The violence, corruption, and ungodliness they personified were completely swept away, washed away by the deluge. Divine judgment had arrived in its fullness, relentless and just. But this story, however dramatic it may be, does not end in destruction. After 40 days and 40 nights of incessant rain that seemed to last an eternity, and 150 days of waters covering the entirety of the earth, the ark, like a floating seed of hope, gently rested on the mountains of Ararat. God, in his infinite mercy, did not forget Noah and all that was with him inside the ark. The waters, obedient to his command, gradually receded. The earth, washed and cleansed by the deluge, began to dry, revealing a new and pristine landscape. And Noah, his family, and all the animals emerged from the ark onto a renewed earth, purified of all ungodliness and ready for a new beginning. And there, under a freshly cleared sky, which witnessed the fury of the deluge, God established an eternal covenant with Noah and with all future generations. A rainbow, vibrant in its colors, appeared in the clouds as a perpetual sign, a solemn promise, that never again would all life be annihilated by a flood, that the earth would not be cursed in this way again. It was an outcome full of hope, a powerful demonstration of divine grace that manifests even after the most severe judgments. A fresh start for humanity, offering the chance to learn from the devastating errors of the past and build a different future. This saga of the Nephilim, from their forbidden conception and their rise as dominators to their final fall in the deluge, is a powerful echo that every choice has a consequence. It is a vivid reminder of how disobedience to divine principles and the unrestrained pursuit of power, fame, and pleasure can corrupt even the most extraordinary creations. But above all, it is a testament to God's impeccable justice and, even more so, to his unwavering grace, which always offers a path to redemption and the possibility of a new and glorious beginning. Which lineage are you feeding with your decisions? The one that builds empires of vanity and leads to the deluge, or the one that seeks true connection with the Creator? The choice, as always, is yours. What you'll discover in this full movie: Cain's escape and the origin of a godless culture, music, metallurgy, cities, twisted into idolatry, the dangerous allure, party sensuality, and alliances that paved the way for violence. The birth of Nephilim, children of sin, strength, fame, and cruelty elevated to worship. Noah's preaching, the animals entering the ark, and the judgment that purifies the earth. A hopeful conclusion, God's covenant, grace, and a new beginning. Why you'll be captivated and want to share. A biblical story told with the pace of an epic film. Intense and timely themes. Unlimited power, sensuality, pride, violence, judgment, and grace. Imagery and scenes that invite reflection. Which lineage am I nurturing with my decisions? Join the conversation. What aspect of the Nephilim saga fascinates you most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more profound explorations of ancient history and biblical narratives, and click the notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. If you found this journey enlightening, give us a thumbs up and share this film with anyone curious about the mysteries of our past. Your engagement helps us bring more untold stories to light.